Hello, everybody. I'm about to get started. Welcome to the meeting. I'm going to share my screen for you, so just give me a moment. And here we go. There we go. Okay, everybody can see this? Everybody can see me? Okay. Well, again, this is Sandra Miller, and thank you for stopping in tonight. Today, we are going to have another module of the fuel program. We're actually going to do the U, E, and the L of fueled. And what those all stand for is we're going to talk about UVA light, its importance in your health, EMFs and electrons, more important than food. Well, maybe, but we're going to find out. We did already talk about foods and fats and fasting, but this stuff is really, really important too. So we're also going to talk about leptin, a hormone that really needs to be regulated if we're ever going to be able to reduce hunger and cravings and gain control over our blood sugar. So what had been covered so far, like I said, was really mostly the foods, adding fats, and fasting. So this actually will give you a whole new element of things to think about and really have a good understanding as to why these things are so important and maybe even more important than food. So really the reason why they're more important than food, or almost more important than food, is electrons. So that's the E in fueled. And when we look at electrons, basically electrons equal life. And when we eat good food, we get electrons from that food. And when we're bombarded with toxins from the environment, from our food, from EMFs, from toxins in our, our body care products, and mercury and fluoride in our toothpaste and in our water, all of those things bombard our body. And the inflammation, which we talked about being the prime cause of disease, increases because we need to use electrons to kind of dampen that inflammation. So when we are bombarded like that, we have too many free radicals. I'm sure you've heard that before. Free radicals and antioxidants, right? Well, where do those come from? Well, those free radicals come from things like sugar, processed foods, industrial seed oils, and grains. Those are robbers of our electrons. And so they cause free radicals. And free radicals, these unpaired electrons, they're like going rogue in the body, and they're causing a lot of damage or oxidation. And oxidation really steals your good health, is what it does. It can cause us to get sick, and to be diseased. And if we don't have enough antioxidants to replace basically that electron that was lost, then that's where disease sets in. So we're going to talk a little bit about what foods provide those electrons, what other things you can do to make sure you have the life energy that you are looking for so that you can be free of disease and have good health. Now, flavonoids or polyphenols are other substances in the diet. When we talk about antioxidants, a lot of people will say, oh, antioxidants, yeah, that's like berries, right? Well, yes, berries have a lot of antioxidants, and typically you can tell an antioxidant in a food by its bright color. So peppers have antioxidants, they're bright yellow, whereas citrus is bright orange or yellow or green. Blueberries are the deep, deep, deep blue, almost purple. So all of those highly colored foods, like a rainbow, those have a lot of flavonoids or polyphenols. And those are substances that have antioxidant properties, and those are very good. Now, also you can find antioxidants in tea, coffee, chocolate, wine. A lot of people know about resveratrol from wine. But all of these deep substances, deep in color, they all have antioxidants or polyphenols. And basically, they give us back that electron that gets used fighting off so many free radicals. Now, it is important to note that while coffee, chocolate, and wine can all be part of a healthy diet, they are not healthy if they are not the cleanest types of foods you can get. What I mean by that is, if we're getting wine has so many chemicals in it that it's really not that healthy. An organic wine is much, much better. There are less sulfites, there are less ingredients that are not just of the grape. So where we get our polyphenols matters. Chocolate would kind of be the same thing, as well as coffee. Now, coffee actually can inhabit lots of mold. And that's because, you know, when they pick the beans, they all sit in a pile. And when they're sitting in that pile, they can get moldy. And that mold can make us really, really sick. So when it comes to chocolate or coffee, again, organic is better. One of the best coffees there are today, sorry, I'm itchy, Dave Asprey has something called Bulletproof Coffee, and that coffee is certified mold-free. So that's really a nice, clean coffee. And when it's mold-free, you get less of the harmful effects from the coffee and just get a really nice, clean energy. So it does really make a difference where your foods come from. And we did already talk about which foods need to be organic. That was your homework for your training in foods. Blueberries, pomegranate, those have really high antioxidant properties. But one of the greatest antioxidants that we have that's very easy to get is vitamin C. Vitamin C is a fabulous antioxidant, and even melatonin has antioxidant properties, really, really strong. So electrons are really, really important, and when things oxidize, they steal our electrons. One of the greatest places you will find oxidizing is when we use industrial seed oils or processed foods. Now, those industrial seed oils that we call undesirable would be the ones that are like a sunflower, canola, peanut, those types of oils, and we're opting for the ones that do not oxidize, like butter and coconut oil and some of those healthier oils that we had talked about in the food section. So in order to really replace those stolen electrons, we have to be able to get enough antioxidants. Now, another place that you can get electrons would also be some of the amino acids. And I don't know if you're familiar with amino acids, but cysteine, glycine, glutamine, if you've heard of those are all amino acids. And they're all driven by the power of sulfur, which basically attracts all the yucky stuff in the body, like mercury and toxins, and basically kind of pulls them out, or helps to pull them out. It helps us to detoxify. And sulfur is one of the reasons it helps to do that. Now, some people genetically don't produce enough antioxidants on their own, and human beings really can't get a lot of them of our own. We do produce some, but we have a limited capacity, some of us, to really remove these toxins because of some genetics. I actually have a genetic SNP that does not allow me to detoxify properly, and I really have to make sure I take the right B vitamins and get a lot of the things you see here on the screen. So glutathione is a master antioxidant in the body. It's an antioxidant that really kicks in when we fast. And that's one of the reasons why fasting is such a powerful strategy. It's because we produce more glutathione when we fast, and that helps to clean up those free radicals. Cysteine is another one, or what some people might know it as is N-acetylcysteine, or NAC. That is a really powerful antioxidant, so powerful, in fact, that if someone overdoses on Tylenol, when they are taken to the hospital, they are typically given vitamin C and N-acetylcysteine intravenously to be able to counteract the poison in the liver caused by acetaminophen overdosing. So with that being said, I'm wanting you to understand that anti-inflammatories are very, very toxic to the body, not only to the liver, but they also do damage to the gut lining. I will be providing you with some strategies for relief of inflammation and pain in a different video, But for now, just remember N-acetylcysteine helps the body detoxify. It helps the liver. And then tryptophan is another one. And you might know tryptophan as the substance in turkey, right? We always talk about falling asleep after Thanksgiving dinner because of the turkey. Typically, it's because there are just too many carbohydrates in the diet. And carbohydrates do have a sedative effect. So really, it's mostly because of that. But turkey does have tryptophan, and it does kind of slow the brain down. So if you have an overactive brain, tryptophan is a really nice, either by supplementation or by just having a food that consists of some tryptophan. Now, methionine is really, really, really important, and that is also an amino acid, which we can get from food. But again, a minute ago, I just said that some people's bodies have a limited capacity to process and remove toxins genetically. Well, if you have that limited ability, you usually have a defect in what's called methylation. And if you actually take on methionine and you cover the end of it, the METH or meth or methyl, methyl groups are what we need to replace to detoxify. They are electron rich, okay? So it's all tying together. Think about SAMe. A lot of people know about SAMe. They know about taking it for depression and mood disorders. Well, why does SAMe work on mood disorders? It works because it's donating a methyl group that some people just don't have, okay? And SAMe is actually s-adenosyl methionine, okay? It's got that methionine at the end. Methionine is a methyl donor. Methyl donors equal health. So everything I'm going to really be talking about here ties into electrons, the methyl cycle or the methylation cycle, and I'm not going to get into the whole cycle tonight. It's very complicated, but if you go on the Biohacking Wellness website, I've got a great article on B vitamins that does talk about the methylation cycle. I'll get into it a little bit tonight, but not a whole lot. But SAMe is a great methyl donor. So if you knew nothing else and you wanted to methylate better and get some of these electrons that are so vital, SAMe will help you do that. And they also help us make ATP energy. We also have a cycle of energy that requires certain cofactors in the cycle for us to make energy. So these methyl donors will help us to make more energy as well. Now, when in foods, we talked about the importance of eating fish and wild game and clean meat from organic sources and not conventional sources. And the reason for that, again, just ties back to electrons. Now, human beings typically ate a very high diet in omega-3s, except for the last 100 years. So why did that happen? Well, because animals used to eat from their native diet, which was just off the land. That made their meat electron rich. But today's animals, and also high in omega-3, today's animals are in confined feeding operations. They're in tight quarters. They're fed grains, which are inflammatory, and steal electrons from the animal. So when you eat the animal, you're getting poor quality food, and now you are lower on electrons for doing that. So omega-3 is one of the important reasons that we do need this type of food. Wild game, fish, wild meats, rabbit, duck, goose, all of those, deer, are always better than any conventionally raised cattle or chicken or anything like that. And you can do chicken as well, but most of these wild game have really what the body needs. Now, I said in limited quantities because remember, a really healthy diet is higher in fat, moderate protein, and low carbohydrate. So limited quantities just means in moderation. It doesn't mean a 6-ounce steak. Now, antioxidant foods, other antioxidant foods like fruits and veggies that increase electrons and our antioxidant capacity are here. Now, we know strawberries and cherries have a lot of antioxidants, but even kiwis have a ton of vitamin C, even more than oranges. some melon, some guava, again in limited quantities because these things do contain some carbohydrates. You can always get it from vegetables, which typically tend to have less, like the dark leafy greens, broccoli, red pepper. Those have a lot of vitamin C and antioxidants, but also herbs, the cilantro, basil, those, the turmeric, the curcumin, any of those darkly pigmented herbs and spices are wonderful antioxidant foods. And that's why they need to be included in the diet, not just because they have antioxidants, but because those antioxidants are electron donors. So that's the important part to take away from that. It's all about boosting glutathione. Now, how can you boost glutathione every single day? You don't know how much your body's making or how much your body's using. Dr. Mark Hyman has provided the following recommendations, and he is a functional medicine doctor who I follow a lot of his work because I have a functional medicine background. I have a couple of certifications in functional medicine. But if you look at foods boosting glutathione, the reason that these foods and substances do this is because they're sulfur-rich. Sulfur-rich foods really boost glutathione, and sulfur is so vital to the body. I mean, I remember the days when it was always egg whites, don't eat the yolk. No, no, no. Don't eat the white by itself. Eat the whole egg because the yolk is sulfur-rich. Some other sulfur-rich foods would be kale, collard, cauliflower, watercress, but especially onions and garlic. It's important that the garlic isn't cooked, though, or you will kill all of those electrons in the garlic if you overcook it. So cook your food, chop the garlic, and add the garlic as a flavoring afterwards, or some people will even eat the cloves raw. Exercise is another great way to boost glutathione, okay? A good vigorous bout of exercise, 10 or 15 minutes is all you really need, just either high intensity interval type things, that would work really well. Even a walk will help to boost glutathione. So exercise helps to boost it. And the other thing that will help will be the N-acetylcysteine, which we talked about, and the alpha-lipoic acid. Those are two other antioxidants. Now, I did say that N-acetylcysteine was used for Tylenol overdoses, which it was, but according to Dr. Hyman, it's also been used for years to help treat asthma and lung issues. So if you have an asthmatic person, a child or parent or yourself, or just lung issues in general, N-acetylcysteine is what Dr. Hyman recommends to help combat that. Now, I talked a little bit about methylation cofactors, and methylation, again, it's happening thousands and thousands of times a second in the body, and it's either happening well or it's not happening well. A good example of a defect in methylation is something like Down syndrome. Down syndrome is a methylation defect in the mom, typically. And then what's even worse is the mom is told to take folic acid. If you have a methylation defect, folic acid doesn't work because your body doesn't have the ability to convert folic acid into methylfolate. Methyl, there's that word again, in which can be used by the body. And as the cells are dividing, there's an error in the dividing of cells. That's why you see things like cleft palate. As the baby is dividing and the cells are dividing, there's a defect. That's a methylation defect. Nobody should be taking folic acid. That is the wrong form of folate. Plenty of leafy greens or methylfolate. It's called 5-methyl tetrahydrofolate is the actual name for it. But really, we should not be taking regular folic acid. And folic acid is loaded into processed foods, just like B6 and B12. People think that they're getting good vitamins when they eat processed food. That is cheap synthetic crap, and it doesn't do its job. It doesn't methylate for everybody. And that's a big issue. Now, B6 and B12, when I say only in their proper forms, I'm not going to be going into what those proper forms are right now. I'll be covering that in a bunch of videos coming up on supplements. But for now, if you really want to understand what the good form of B12 and B6 are, and which ones help you methylate, then you can go to my www.biohackingwellness.com website and just search out B vitamins. I have a 2-part article. These vitamins and minerals are very, very important for brain and mood and building and making our neurotransmitters. So if anyone has depression, you want to really take a good look at the B vitamin supplement you might be getting. If you're just getting them from processed foods, that's probably a good portion of the problem. When it comes to folate, I told you about the best form. That one, we want methyl tetrahydrofolate, not just folic acid, or folinic acid would be okay. That converts a little bit better as well. There's also a form of B6 that is the right form of B6. It's not the pyridoxine form, which is in most of your Centrum vitamins, or the crap that they put in your macaroni and cheese. Not the right form of B6. And these are critical to the methylation process, the cell division, the detoxification, the making of neurotransmitters. It's just all very, very, very important stuff.